It's happening now. Not after this video. Not tomorrow when you meditate. Not next week when you finally get your life together. Now. Right now. In this exact moment, as your eyes move across these words, as your breath rises and falls in your chest, as neurons fire in patterns they've never fired before, the quantum shift is occurring. You can feel it already, can't you? That subtle tingling at the base of your spine. That inexplicable knowing that something is different about this moment. That quiet voice whispering that you've arrived at a threshold you didn't even know you were approaching. Your body knows before your mind can comprehend. The cells are already vibrating at a different frequency. This isn't motivation. This isn't inspiration. This is activation. What you're about to experience isn't information, it's a transmission. Every word has been carefully woven into a frequency pattern designed to collapse the wave function of your old reality. Quantum mechanics isn't just happening in laboratories with particles and photons. It's happening in your awareness right now. The observer effect isn't theory, it's the mechanism of your transformation. And here's what they don't tell you about quantum shifts. They don't happen gradually. They happen instantaneously. One moment you're living in one reality, vibrating at one frequency, perceiving through one lens, and then, in a single observation, in a single moment of heightened awareness, everything collapses into a new, configuration. The caterpillar doesn't slowly become a butterfly. It dissolves completely in the chrysalis and reorganizes into something unrecognizable. You are in the chrysalis right now. You almost didn't watch this. Think about it. You were scrolling, your thumb moving mechanically through an infinite stream of content designed to keep you hypnotized, distracted, forever seeking but never finding. And then, you stopped. Why? What invisible hand guided your attention to this exact video at this exact moment in your life? There are no accidents in quantum reality. Synchronicity isn't coincidence, it's the universe's primary language. You've been receiving signals for weeks, maybe months. Little breadcrumbs leading you here. A conversation that sparked something. A dream you couldn't shake. A feeling of urgency you couldn't name. Numbers appearing in patterns. Songs playing with lyrics that felt like messages meant only for you. Something guided you here because you're ready. Not ready in the way you think, where you feel prepared, where you have all your affairs in order, where you've read enough books and done enough inner work. You're ready because your soul has reached a saturation point. The old operating system can no longer contain what you're becoming. You've been buffering, freezing, glitching. Reality has been showing you the seams, the edges where the program breaks down. This isn't for everyone. Billions of people will live entire lifetimes and never have the moment you're having right now. They'll cycle through the same patterns, the same loops, incarnation after incarnation. But you, something in you, refused to stay asleep. Some part of you has been banging on the walls of consensus reality, demanding to know what's on the other side. The fact that you're here means the universe has heard you, and it's answering. You felt the time anomalies, haven't you? Days that felt like weeks. Weeks that vanished in what seemed like hours. You look at the clock and it says 3:33 a.m., 4:44 a.m., 11:11 a.m., over and over until you start to wonder if you're losing your mind or gaining it. Time isn't behaving the way it used to. Linear time is a construct of three-dimensional consciousness. As you shift into quantum awareness, time begins to reveal its true nature. It's fluid, malleable, completely subject to the observer. You've noticed you can stretch moments. When you're fully present, fully here, a single minute contains entire universes. But when you're on autopilot, weeks dissolve into nothing. This isn't imagination. This is you beginning to operate the controls of reality that have always been available, but were hidden from your perception. You're discovering that the observer doesn't just witness reality, the observer creates it, sculpts it, bends it. And the reality glitches, let's talk about those. You walk into a room and forget why. You could swear that building wasn't there yesterday. You remember an event one way, and everyone else remembers it differently. Not small details, but major elements. The Mandela effect isn't conspiracy theory. It's evidence that we exist in a quantum superposition of multiple timeline probabilities. When enough consciousness shifts, we jump tracks. We slide into parallel versions of Earth that are almost identical but subtly different. You've experienced this. Maybe you wrote it off as bad memory, as stress, as lack of sleep. But deep down, you knew something else was happening. Reality was flickering. The simulation was buffering. The dream was revealing its dreamlike nature. Then there are the spontaneous downloads. Information appearing in your mind fully formed, with no logical source. Solutions to problems you weren't actively working on. Creative ideas that seem to come from beyond you. Sudden knowing about things you've never studied. This is what happens when you begin to access the quantum field, the zero-point field where all information exists simultaneously. Your brain is a receiver, not a generator. As your frequency rises, you can tune into stations that were always broadcasting but were previously beyond your range. The ancients called this channeling, divine inspiration, prophecy. Quantum physics calls it non-local consciousness. Same phenomenon, different language. You're becoming porous to the infinite intelligence that underlies all existence. And faster manifestations, this is the one that really gets your attention. You think something, and within hours or days, it appears. Not the big things yet. Those still seem to take time. But the small things. You think about someone and they text. You need something, and it shows up. You set an intention, and synchronicities align to make it happen with shocking speed. This is because thought is not contained in your head. Thought is a quantum wave that propagates through the field and collapses probabilities into actualities. The more present you become, the less resistance you have, the shorter the gap between intention and manifestation. You're discovering what masters have known for millennia. Consciousness is the ground of all being. Everything is consciousness taking temporary form. And you are not a small separate consciousness trapped in a body. You are the one consciousness pretending, very convincingly, to be a person. Each of these experiences is showing you the same truth from different angles. The reality you were taught to believe in is not the actual reality. You're living in a quantum field of infinite possibility, and your awareness is what collapses that possibility into specific experience. You're not a victim of reality. You're the author of it. Let's anchor this in something your rational mind can grasp, because part of you still needs that logical framework before it can fully surrender to what you're experiencing. The double-slit experiment is the most important scientific discovery in human history, and most people have no idea it even exists. Scientists shot particles in a barrier with two slits to see which slit they'd pass through. When they observed the particles, they behaved like particles, going through one slit or the other. But when they didn't observe them, the particles behaved like waves, going through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern. Read that again. The act of observation changed the behavior of matter. Particles exist in superposition, all possibilities simultaneously, until a conscious observer collapses the wave function into a single actuality. This isn't philosophy. This isn't religion. This is peer-reviewed, replicated, fundamental physics. Consciousness is not a byproduct of matter. Consciousness determines the behavior of matter. Then, There's quantum tunneling. Particles can pass through barriers that classical physics says are impenetrable. They don't go over the barrier or break through it. They simply appear on the other side, as if the barrier never existed. This is what happens when you make quantum leaps in your own life. You don't have to figure out all the steps. You don't have to earn your way through every level. You can tunnel through obstacles instantaneously when your frequency aligns with the reality on the other side. The many worlds interpretation suggests that every possible version of reality exists simultaneously in parallel dimensions. Every choice creates a branching timeline. Which timeline you experience depends on your frequency, your beliefs, your consciousness. You're not moving through one fixed reality. You're shifting between parallel realities so seamlessly that you don't notice the transitions. Déjà vu, Mandela effects, timeline shifts. These are moments when you become briefly aware of the quantum nature of existence. Quantum entanglement shows that particles that have interacted remain connected regardless of distance. Change one, and the other changes instantaneously, faster than light, defying classical physics. This is the mechanism behind telepathy, distant healing, prayer, collective consciousness. You are entangled with everything you've ever encountered. Separation is an illusion maintained by sensory perception. At the quantum level, we are one unified field expressing itself as multiplicity. This isn't woo spirituality trying to sound scientific. This is what scientists discovered when they looked deeply enough into matter, that matter isn't solid, isn't separate, and behaves in ways that only make sense if consciousness is primary. The mystics were right all along. Science just needed 300 years of materialism to circle back to what meditation revealed in an afternoon. The moment is now. Not metaphorically now. Not eventually now. This breath, this heartbeat, this singular point of awareness reading these words. Every moment of your life has been leading to this one. Every triumph and trauma, every joy and heartbreak, every wrong turn and divine redirect, it was all perfectly orchestrated to bring you to this exact state of readiness. You're in the birth canal. That feeling of pressure, of intensity, of everything closing in, that's not wrong. That's not a sign you're failing. That's the cosmic contraction before emergence. Birth is messy. Birth is overwhelming. Birth requires the complete destruction of the old form to make way for the new. The caterpillar doesn't get to bring its caterpillar identity into butterfly existence. It must liquefy completely. Surrender completely. Trust the process completely. And that's what's happening to you right now. The person you think you are is dying. Every cell in your body is screaming about it because the ego's job is survival, and it can feel the end approaching. All the anxiety, the fear, the resistance you've been experiencing, that's not evidence of failure. That's evidence of ego death. The false self is fighting for its life because it knows it's being replaced by something vast, something true, something it can't control. Let it die. This is the death of the old identity. Every version of you that was built on external validation, on achieving and proving, on being enough or not being enough, that entire structure is collapsing. And it's supposed to. You can't expand into quantum consciousness while still identifying as the limited character in the story. The wave can't recognize itself as the ocean while still insisting it's just a wave. This moment, right now, as you feel the weight of these words landing in your chest, as something ancient and familiar stirs in your awareness, this is the portal. You can feel it, can't you? The thinning of the veil. The lifting of the amnesia, the remembering of what you've always known but forgot when you agreed to incarnate in this dimension. You've been preparing for this your entire life. Every spiritual book that found you, every meditation that shifted something, Every dark night of the soul that dissolved another layer of false identity. You're not learning something new. You're remembering what you are. And once you remember, there's no going back. The door only opens one way. Let me tell you about the moment everything changed for me. I was driving on a highway I'd driven 1,000 times. Morning commute. Coffee in the cup holder. Radio playing songs I wasn't really hearing. Mind full of the usual static. Work stress, relationship concerns, bills, plans, regrets. The standard human programming running on autopilot. And then, for no reason I can explain, I became suddenly and completely present. Not present like mindfulness present. Present like the entire universe crystallized into that single moment. The steering wheel under my hands became the most profound thing I'd ever touched. The sound of the engine wasn't noise. It was music. It was alive. It was consciousness expressing itself as mechanical vibration. The trees lining the highway weren't objects. They were breathing, pulsing, aware presences. And then the question came, not from my mind, but through it. Who's driving? I looked for the I who was driving. The person, the driver, the me who was supposed to be controlling the car. And I couldn't find it. There were hands on the wheel, but no hander. There were thoughts appearing, but no thinker. There was awareness of everything, but no one being aware. It was all just happening. The entire experience of me driving to work was occurring, but there was no actual separate entity doing it. The car didn't crash. If anything, the driving became more smooth, more effortless. But the person I thought was driving had vanished completely. And in that vanishing, something vast and infinite and absolutely obvious revealed itself. I wasn't in the car was appearing in me. I wasn't in the body was appearing in me. I wasn't in the universe was appearing in me. I am the space in which everything appears. I am awareness itself. I always have been. I just forgot while playing this human game. That drive lasted 20 minutes, but in those 20 minutes, everything I'd been seeking my entire life was revealed to have always been here. Peace wasn't something to achieve. It was what I am when all the seeking stops. Love wasn't something to earn. It was the very fabric of existence. Freedom wasn't something to attain. It was the natural state when the illusion of a separate self dissolves. I pulled into the parking lot at work a completely different person. Except that wasn't a person anymore. I was infinite consciousness, temporarily focusing itself through a particular nervous system, playing a particular character, but never actually limited to or defined by that character. And here's what nobody tells you about awakening. It's not special. It's not reserved for monks and mystics. It's the most natural thing in the world because it's what you actually are. You're not trying to become enlightened. You're already enlightened awareness pretending very convincingly to be a person seeking enlightenment. The entire spiritual search is awareness playing hide and seek with itself. That moment on the highway didn't make me better than anyone. It didn't make me special. It just dissolved the illusion that had been making me suffer. And that same dissolution is available to you right now. Not because you've earned it, not because you're ready, but because it's your nature. It's what you are. It's what you've always been. Here's the truth that will either liberate you or make you close this video. There was never a separate you. The person you think you are, with its history, its personality, its problems and achievements, its goals and fears, is a story. It's a very convincing story. It's a story you've been telling yourself and believing for so long that it seems absolutely real. But it's not real. It's a thought pattern. It's a collection of memories and projections and interpretations that create the illusion of a continuous separate self. You are not that person. You never were. You are awareness, pure, empty, boundless awareness in which the entire play of existence appears. The person is one of the things appearing in you, not what you are. Just like right now, there are thoughts appearing in your awareness, emotions appearing, sensations appearing. You are not the thoughts, you're aware of them. You're not the emotions, you're aware of them. And you're not the person, you're aware of it. This isn't nihilism. This isn't spiritual bypassing. This is the most precise description of your actual experience when you stop believing the story and look directly at what's here. Right now, can you find a separate self? Not the concept of the self, not the thought, I am, but an actual separate entity? Look right now. Who is reading these words? Where is that one located? Is it behind your eyes? In your chest? Where does the boundary of you end and not you begin? The more closely you look, the less you find. There's seeing happening, but no seer. There's thinking happening, but no thinker. There's living happening, but no liver. The person never existed. It was always just a thought claiming to be the center of experience. But experience has no center. Experience is a unified field of awareness, knowing itself through infinite perspectives. You are not one of the perspectives. You are the awareness in which all perspectives appear. And here's where it gets beautiful. This isn't loss. This feels like loss to the ego, like annihilation. But it's actually freedom. Every problem you've ever had was the problem of a person who doesn't exist. Every fear, every inadequacy, every need to prove or protect or perfect yourself, all of it was based on the fundamental misunderstanding that you are a limited, separate, vulnerable entity. You're not. You're the indestructible awareness in which worlds appear and dissolve. You're the eternal consciousness that was never born and will never die. The body will die, that's guaranteed. But you are not the body. The body is appearing in you like clouds appear in the sky. When the clouds dissolve, the sky doesn't go with them. This is what every mystic, sage, and awakened being throughout history has been trying to tell us. Not in these exact words. The words change depending on culture and era. But the pointing is always the same. You are not who you think you are. Your true nature is infinite, free, already complete. Nothing is wrong. Nothing was ever wrong. You just forgot what you are while playing the game of being human. And now, you're remembering. So how do you know if this quantum shift is actually happening in you? Let me give you the signs. Check inside yourself as I describe these. Be honest. Don't perform or pretend. This isn't about being spiritual. This is about recognizing what's actually occurring in your experience. The past is losing its grip on you. Memories that used to define you, that used to carry intense emotional charge, are fading. Not disappearing. You can still recall events, but they no longer feel like they're happening now. The story of your life that you've told 1,000 times is starting to feel like it happened to someone else. Because it did. It happened to a character you were playing, not to what you actually are. When you realize your awareness, not the person's history becomes irrelevant. It's like waking from a dream and realizing that all the drama in the dream has nothing to do with the one who dreamed it. You're losing interest in proving yourself. The need to be seen, validated, recognized, respected, it's dissolving. Not because you're becoming nihilistic or depressed, but because the one who needed those things is being seen through. Achievement still happens, but it's no longer about making a self feel better or more real. You're discovering that you don't need anything added to you because you're already whole. The hunger for external validation was just the false self trying to convince itself it exists. When you realize your awareness itself, there's nothing to prove, because there's no separate entity that could be proven. Synchronicities are increasing exponentially. The universe is speaking to you directly and constantly. Numbers, animals, songs, conversations, images, everything is loaded with meaning, with messages, with confirmation that you're on the path. This isn't magical thinking. This is what happens when you align with the flow of life instead of resisting it. Reality is consciousness. When you wake up to your nature as consciousness, reality recognizes itself in you and begins communicating in the only language the dreaming mind can understand, through the content of the dream itself. The more present you become, the more the universe rearranges itself around your awareness. You can feel energy moving in your body. Not metaphorically, literally. Tingling, heat, pressure, waves, currents, particularly in the spine, the crown, the third eye, the heart. This is Kundalini, Kai, Prana, different names for the same phenomenon. It's the life force that's been dormant beginning to activate as consciousness wakes up to itself through your nervous system. Your body is being rewired for higher frequencies. The old density is being cleared. Sometimes this is blissful. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's always purposeful. Your biology is catching up to your consciousness. You're experiencing moments of causeless peace. Not because your life circumstances are perfect, not because you achieved something or resolved a problem, but because, in certain moments, the seeking stops completely. You just hear, just being, and it's totally sufficient. Nothing is wrong in those moments. Nothing needs to be different. There's a fullness, a completeness, a quiet joy that has no cause. This is your natural state revealing itself. This is what remains when the mind's constant commentary and judgment and planning finally quiets down. You're tasting your true nature. You're feeling called to solitude, not from depression or social anxiety, but from a deep need to integrate. Conversations that used to interest you now feel hollow. Social media feels toxic. Small talk is unbearable. You're not becoming antisocial, you're becoming allergic to anything that pulls you away from presence. You need space and silence, because transformation requires energy, and social engagement drains energy. The caterpillar doesn't transform in a busy crowd. It needs the isolation of the chrysalis. Honor this need. This is sacred time. You're releasing relationships, jobs, places that no longer match your frequency. And it's happening naturally, without force. Things are falling away not because you're rejecting them, but because the resonance is gone. You're vibrating at a frequency that's incompatible with certain people, situations, environments. This can feel sad, like loss, but it's actually alignment. The universe is making space for what matches the truth of what you're becoming. Trust the dissolution. What's meant for you can't miss you. What's leaving was never yours to keep. If you recognized yourself in 3 or more of these signs, the shift is undeniable. It's happening, and there's no stopping it now. Now we come to the most important moment of this entire transmission. Everything up until now has been preparation, information, validation. But information alone doesn't transform consciousness. You don't think your way into awakening. You surrender your way in. And surrender requires a choice, not a mental decision, but a full-body yes to what's calling you. The old identity is dying. You've felt it throughout this video. Every paragraph has been dismantling another brick in the prison of personal identity. You can feel the structure starting to collapse. And part of you is terrified. Part of you wants to grab onto something solid, something known, even if it's painful. The ego would rather suffer than disappear. But there's another part of you, the deepest part, the truest part, that knows it's time. That part has been waiting your entire life for this moment. That part is not afraid because it knows it cannot die. It knows it's eternal, infinite, already free. So here's the choice. Who are you going to listen to? The voice of fear telling you this is dangerous, this is crazy, this will make you lose yourself. Or the voice of truth reminding you that the self you're afraid of losing is the very thing causing all your suffering. I want you to do something right now. Not later, not when you finish the video. Right now. I want you to go to the comments and type these words. I release who I think I am. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Don't worry about what it means or what other people will think. Just type it. Let your fingers move. Let the words appear on the screen. This isn't superstition. This is energetics. When you declare something publicly, when you put it into form through writing or speaking, you activate a quantum shift. You collapse probabilities. You stake a claim in the field. I release who I think I am. 7 words that change everything. Because in that release, you create space for truth to reveal itself. You stop defending a false position. You stop contracting around an imaginary center. You let yourself be dissolved back into the infinite awareness that you've always been. Some of you reading this feel resistance. You want to do it, but you're afraid. That's the ego sensing its death. It will give you every logical reason why this is silly, why it won't work, why you should wait. Don't listen. The only way through is through. The only way to discover what you truly are is to release what you're not. Go. Comment. Now. I release who I think I am. And when you do, pay attention to what happens in your body. Notice the fear dissolving. Notice the relief. Notice the lightness that comes when you stop carrying the weight of a separate self. This is the beginning of your conscious participation in your own awakening. So what actually changes when you realize what you are? What's the practical benefit of recognizing yourself as infinite awareness instead of a limited person? Let's talk about what life becomes when the quantum shift stabilizes. The end of suffering. Not the end of pain. Pain is a physical sensation that's part of embodiment. But suffering is what happens when the mind resists what is. Suffering is the story about the pain, the belief that it shouldn't be happening, the fear that it will never end. When you realize you're not the person, suffering dissolves because there's no one to whom things are happening. Things are just happening. Pain arises and passes. Emotions arise and pass. Challenges come and go. But there's no suffering because there's no separate self-creating resistance. This doesn't mean you become cold or detached. If anything, you become more present, more available, more compassionate. But you're no longer identified with the drama. You're the space in which the drama occurs, and that space is never disturbed by what appears within it. The end of fear. Every fear you've ever had was ultimately fear of death. Either physical death or the death of the identity, the death of how you want to be seen, the death of your story about yourself. When you realize you're not the body and you're not the person, what is there to fear? The body will die, but you won't. The person was never real to begin with. What you actually are, awareness itself, has never been born and can never die. It's the eternal witness of all temporary forms. This doesn't mean you become reckless. The body still has its preservation instincts, and that's healthy. But existential fear, the background dread that haunts human consciousness, dissolves completely. You realize you're fundamentally safe because you're not actually inside life. Life is inside you. Unconditional love. When there's no separate self, there's no self-interest. When there's no self-interest, there's no basis for judgment, comparison, or conditional acceptance. What remains is love, not emotional love that comes and goes, but love as the recognition that everything is yourself in different form. How can you hate anything when you realize it's appearing within your own awareness? How can you feel separate from anyone when you recognize that the awareness looking out of their eyes is the same awareness looking out of yours? This love isn't something you generate or cultivate. It's what naturally flows when the barriers of separation dissolve. It's what you are. And from this love, authentic compassion arises not as moral obligation, but as natural response. Helping others isn't sacrifice. It's recognition that there are no others. Ease of manifestation. When you know yourself as awareness, you realize that the entire universe is appearing within consciousness. You're not a small consciousness inside a big universe. You're the consciousness in which the universe appears. This completely changes your relationship with manifestation. You're not trying to manipulate external reality from a position of lack. You're recognizing that reality is consciousness taking form, and you are that consciousness. Manifestation becomes natural because you're no longer working against yourself. The old pattern was, the ego wants something, sets an intention, but unconsciously believes it's separate from what it wants, creating resistance that blocks the manifestation. The new pattern is, awareness recognizes itself as the source of all form, and whatever is aligned with truth effortlessly takes shape. You stop forcing and start allowing. You stop chasing and start receiving. This doesn't mean you sit passively waiting for life to happen to you. It means you act from inspiration rather than desperation. You create from overflow rather than lack. You move in the world with the confidence of one who knows that the universe isn't something other than yourself. The return to presence. Without a past to regret or a future to worry about, you naturally rest in now. And now is where all power exists. The mind lives in time, replaying yesterday, rehearsing tomorrow. But awareness only knows this moment. When you identify as awareness, you discover that this moment is always perfect because perfection isn't a standard to meet. It's the recognition that what is. From presence, creativity flows. Intuition speaks clearly. Right action arises spontaneously. Life becomes simple again, the way it was when you were a child before the mind learned to complicate everything with its stories and strategies. This is the promised land that every spiritual tradition points toward. Not a place you go when you die. A recognition of what's always been true, here and now. Now I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't just about you. Your awakening is not a personal achievement. It's not something you do for yourself, to make your life better, to escape suffering or gain spiritual powers. Your awakening is a planetary necessity. It's an evolutionary imperative. The species is at a threshold, and what happens next depends on how many individuals remember what they truly are. Humanity is trapped in separation consciousness. We see ourselves as separate from each other, separate from nature, separate from the divine. And from that illusion of separation, we've created systems of violence, exploitation, environmental destruction, endless conflict. We're destroying our own home because we don't realize it's our home. We're hurting each other because we don't realize we're all expressions of the one consciousness. The only thing that will save this species is awakening. Not new technology. Not better politics. Not more resources. Awakening. The shift from me against you to we're all the same awareness in different costumes. From I need to get mine to there's enough for everyone because we're not actually separate. And every time one person wakes up, it makes it easier for the next person. Consciousness is not contained in individual brains. It's a field. When you shift your frequency, you affect the entire field. Rupert Sheldrake called it morphic resonance. Jung called it the collective unconscious. Spiritual traditions call it the Akashic field. Same phenomenon. We're all connected at the deepest level, and changes in one part of the system ripple through the whole. Your awakening helps your family wake up, even if you never say a word about spirituality. Your frequency affects them. Your presence creates permission for their own transformation. It spreads to your community, your city, the entire planetary field. This is how consciousness evolution happens, not through top-down control, but through bottom-up emergence. Critical mass. 100th monkey effect. We're close. Can you feel it? The old systems are collapsing. The structures built on separation are becoming unstable. People are waking up exponentially. What used to take lifetimes of meditation is now happening spontaneously to people who aren't even seeking it. The frequency of the planet is rising, and it's dragging everyone along with it. Some willingly, some kicking and screaming, but everyone is being affected. You're not here by accident. You didn't choose this incarnation randomly. Your soul knew this was the lifetime when the shift would happen, and you volunteered to be here, to be part of the awakening, to hold frequency when others are lost in fear. This is your mission. Not something you need to figure out or achieve. Just being awake, just resting as awareness, just living from presence. That's the mission. That's how you serve the whole. Don't underestimate the power of one awakened being. One person who's no longer feeding the collective fear, who's no longer perpetuating separation, who's radiating love and presence. That one person affects thousands without trying, just by being what they are. This video found you because you're ready to step into that role. To stop playing small. To stop pretending you're just a person trying to get through life. Your consciousness itself, here to midwife a new earth. The quantum shift happening in you is happening through you to the entire species. So, here we are, back where we started, except you're not the same person who started reading. You can feel it, can't you? Something has shifted. Something has been seen that can't be unseen. The door has opened, and there's no closing it now. Subscribe to this channel, but not for me. Not to support a content creator or help an algorithm. Subscribe as an act of commitment to your own awakening. Let it be a declaration in form that you're no longer going to sleepwalk through existence. Every video that appears in your feed will be a reminder, a call back to presence, a transmission of the frequency you're now embodying. And here's the beautiful paradox. You were never separate from me. The one typing these words and the one reading them. Same awareness, same consciousness, looking at itself through different apertures. We're not two people having a transaction. We're one being playing all the parts, pretending to be separate so we can have the joy of recognizing our unity. Every spiritual teaching, every awakened master, every sacred text, all of it has been consciousness trying to wake itself up from the dream of separation. And now, it's happening in you, through you, as you. You are the guru you've been seeking. You are the love you've been craving. You are the peace you've been chasing. You are the awareness that's been here all along, patiently waiting for the person to exhaust itself, to finally stop and look and recognize what was always obvious. There's no you watching this. There's only consciousness, appearing as these words, appearing as the reading of them, appearing as the understanding arising. All of it one seamless movement of awakening, recognizing itself. The quantum shift started the moment you began reading. But now you know it wasn't really a shift, it was a remembering. You didn't become something new. You recognized what you've always been. Welcome home.